So I came up with this idea of funny process that would be nice to include into one of my routines. And the idea is that I will be uploading a page or two from a book that I'm currently reading. I won't be reading everything as much into this recording as I will be reading off the recording, because it's quite reading aloud is quite tiring for me, and it's also not that enjoyable. However, in a different sense, it is also really enjoyable, and it would be nice to have this routine and create a series of recordings, and after sometimes having the entire book read by myself. And it's also the book I chose is quite old book, so I don't know if there will be any audiobook of it. It's from 1990, and I mean, the price you'll have to pay for listening to. I mean, I'm not expecting anyone to listen to it. I'm just doing it for myself. But if you do embark on this voyage of myself, my own voyage is that I won't be cutting these videos. I just want to record a clip a day and upload it as quickly as possible and have it done, so there will be plenty of cuts and misread words and stutters and things as such. Okay, so let me start. The book I'm reading is The Problem of Evil, edited by Marilyn McCord Adams and Robert Merrihew Adams. Introduction. Problems of Evil. Ordinary English reserves the term evil for what is morally sinister, but philosophers and theologians have for centuries lumped all of life's minuses together under that rubric, giving evil a very wide signification. They have distinguished moral evils such as wars and crimes and self-destructive vices, and the damage they cause in human life, from natural evils such as diseases and the destructive effects of earthquakes and tornadoes. The inevitability of death itself is regarded by many as one of the greatest of natural evils. Anyone who reads or hears the news of the world knows of the existence of evil in this broad sense, and virtually all of us have or will have some agonizing experience of them in our lives. Several problems of different kinds can be found in these facts. Clearly, the entrenchment of evils in our world possesses a practical problem for living things generally. How to survive in such seemingly hostile environment? Human beings, moreover, all face the existential problem of whether and how a life laced with suffering and punctuated by death can have any positive meaning. Evils in the amounts and the kinds and with the distribution found in our world make urgent the question of question what sort of posture a person ought to adopt to the basic condition of human existence. Should one see evils as a challenge to the overcoming of which adds zest to life in a basically good world? Or should one see life as nightmarish far beyond human power to effect? Should one endure it with stoic resignation, doing what one can to ease the pain, or should one rebel against it in fierce opposition? Both practical and existential problems have a theoretical dimension. The solution calls for theories about the structure of the world and the place of human beings in it, for explanations that locate the origin and or explain the occurrence of evil, for accounts that suggest appropriate and effective human responses to them. Both science and religion have stepped into this role. As with all theories, their proposals have to be evaluated and reassessed against the data along the parameters of consistency, exploratory power, and theoretical and practical fruitfulness. Most discussions in Western philosophy, as indeed all the essays of this volume, have focused on the theoretical problem of evil as it arises within the context of biblical religion. It is often seen as the logical problem whether the theistic belief 1. God exists and is omnipotent, omniscient, and perfectly good is logically consistent with 2. Evil exists. For initially it seems that P1, a perfectly good being, would always eliminate evil so far as it could. P2, an omniscient being would know all about evils. And P3, there are no limits to what an omnipotent being can do. But the conjunction of 1, 2, P1, P2, and P3 forms an inconsistent quintet, so that it is possible to infer from any four the denial of the fifth. In particular, the last four entail the denial of the first, while the first combines with the last three to entail the denial of the second. Given P1, P2, and P3, it seems to follow that either God does not exist or evil does not, and few have been prepared to deny the existence of evil. Such reasoning may be taken to two ways, however. On the one hand, it may be construed aporetically as generalizing a puzzle. One may remain convinced of the compatibility of 1 and 2, and yet see the above arguments as imposing on anyone who rejects them the burden of explaining how the prima facie plausible premises are not all so acceptable, the inferences not so evident as they seem. Approached this way, the philosophical problem of evil gives crisp focus to a philosophical difficulty in understanding the relationship between God and evil, one that arises not because there is an explicit logical contradiction between 1 and 2, but because our pre-analytic understanding of perfectly good, omniscient, and omnipotent construe the maximization straightforwardly in terms of P1, P2, and P3 respectively. When taken aporetically, such arguments present a constructive challenge to probe more deeply into the logical relations among these proportions, to offer more rigorous and subtle analysis of the divine perfections. P1, P2, and P3 are not held to have anything more than initial plausibility in their favor, and the aporetic inconsistent quintet serves the positive function of structuring the discussion and enabling one to pinpoint and contrast various resolutions in a precise way. Even those who, like many of the great medieval philosophers, accepted 2 as empirically good and held 1 as demonstrable a priori or as a non-negotiable item of faith, could recognize a problem of understanding how 1 and 2 are composable, of articulating 1, 2, and one's understanding of the divine attributes in such a way as to exhibit their composability. Thanks for listening. See you the next time.